be starting soon. Okay, Nick, thanks so much for joining our class today. What I'd like to do is just start off by having you introduce yourself and then tell us what you do for a living.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Mike. And hey, everybody, I'm a Glumberg South alumni, class of 2005. So always enjoy. Yeah, 2005. 15 years.
Are you the same class as Steve Galanis or one ahead?
It's one ahead. So he was, I think, 06. So he's a year older than me. Yeah. Two Greek entrepreneurs trying to find their way in the world.
That's right. So Steve was in at the beginning of this of first semester, like he was previously. So.
Right. His thing's going off the charts. It's going great.
Yeah. So what do you do for a living?
So I've started a couple different companies. So I started, I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Hunt Club. And Hunt Club's a next-gen recruiting company. So we use, basically referrals and introductions from business leaders to help companies find awesome, great new talent and hire someone awesome. And then, and I also started a small venture capital firm called New Coast Ventures, where we're investing in different startups, different ideas, different concepts to build businesses.
Very cool. I was wondering, I want to touch on both of those and ask you a number of other things, but can you talk a little bit about the mechanics of Hunt Club? Like, how does it actually work? How do you guys make money? Why do people, need your services?
Yeah. So the way that works is basically we have different leaders and executives and people with awesome networks sign up on our platform. They actually can upload their contacts. So all the people that they know, they do that through either uploading Gmail, so integrating their email, or actually uploading their LinkedIn accounts. A lot of kids in your class probably don't have LinkedIn yet, but they will one day. And so once they upload that, we built a bunch of technology that essentially allows us to understand how well two people know each other, the strength of that relationship. And the cool thing we do is we give those business leaders the opportunity to refer their friends for our customers' open jobs. So if we're working on a VP of marketing search for Dollar Shave Club, we can have hundreds of marketing leaders all referring from their network to help our customers find great talent. And so the value is really, and why people need it is it's really hard to find great, credible, trusted talent. And the best people usually know really great folks in the space. So we really kind of help facilitate that process.
And can you just talk a little bit about what that industry, I'm going to call it headhunting, and maybe there's another maybe executive search. Can you just explain how that industry works? And then I think that'll provide more context to how your solution is disrupting that a little bit.
Yeah, so companies pay recruiting firms, big ones, small ones, in a wide range of different business models to help them find and assess and ultimately land great talent. So many of them only get paid once somebody takes a new job. Some of them get paid regardless if someone takes a new job. And there's lots of different variances of business models, but the primary industry is predicated on helping someone find a great new job at a company that's hiring.
So the best jobs want the best people working for them, and so they pay somebody else to help find that person, right?
Yeah, and usually it's the reason why you do it, because there's a lot of companies that have great brands where people apply, and sometimes you wouldn't need a recruiting service to help you or an external recruiting service. There's a lot of companies that hire their own internal recruiters to help facilitate getting great people in. So the reason why you would use an external recruiting firm in general is either it's a really specialized hire that's difficult to find, so you need to pay somebody that maybe has an expertise in it. You're growing so fast that your internal team can't actually handle the volume and how you're scaling, kind of similar to Steven's business. And then, or you just really trust a party or a group to kind of help you find the best people, and you're okay with the expense of it because of the quality that's coming in. So those are usually the three reasons why people use it.
Very cool. Thanks for that explanation. I was wondering if you could go back a little bit to your origin story and talk a little bit about, you went to Cromydas South. Where'd you go to college? What did you study? What did you do while you were there? And then we'll pick up after that.
Yeah. So graduated Cromydas South in 2005. My whole life was tennis up until 2009. So I went to Vanderbilt University, played on their tennis team there for 4 years. Had some really good teams, some really bad teams when I was there. So we were anywhere between 75 in the country to 20 in the country. Basically majored in tennis. So spent all my time playing tennis there while I was there and trying to have some fun while I could. But I did double major in communication studies, and then our version of our business school, which is managerial studies, corporate strategy. So you actually kind of got to pick your own major in business and add classes to it. So it was a great program. And graduated in 09, and then did a really cool program via our MBA program that was basically a foray into consulting, and then got kicked out into the real world.
All right. So then, so after Vanderbilt, after tennis, what was your first job? Did you work as a consultant, or did you go straight into the startup world?
It took me actually 2 years to get my first corporate job. So I graduated in 2009, which was the last recession.
All right. Here we are again.
Hopefully this isn't a recession, but the last recession. And it was really tough because I never interned anywhere. I really didn't spend time building relationships aside from playing a sport. So my first job out of school, I was actually Northwestern's women's tennis coach for a year. And so it was a really cool first job, great team. We were #1 in the country nearly most of the year. Won Big Tens, won an indoor national championship, and it was a lot of fun. And so after that, I went and worked for a small, actually right across the street from Glenbrook South on, do you know where Glassworks is?
Yes, right off Westlake Avenue.
Yeah, so right across the street from Glassworks, there's a small glass company called, it was called Rare Form Architectural Products. And this guy was like this great entrepreneur. He had this really cool small business, and he built things out of glass and metal. So he built like the Sears Tower or Willis Tower's lobby. He built like the storefront of a couple hotels. So like really cool things. So I went and worked for him for like 8 months. Friend of a dad got the job, and for me, and then did that, and then basically used that experience to springboard to ultimately get a job at consulting shortly down the road.
All right. So then how long did you last in consulting before you had enough of that?
Yeah, 2 years, but I almost quit after 3 months. So
Can you talk about what consulting is? I think sometimes we hear the term consultant and it can mean almost anything. What were some of the types of responsibilities that you had as a consultant during those 2 years?
Yeah, so I worked for KPMG in their advisory practice. So it's their consulting division, and really our projects were around strategy and technology. So how large companies, in the pharmaceutical space, in the banking space, use technology to further business strategically and then actually tactically. So one of the projects we're on, they wanted to switch payments processors. So helping them figure out which is the best one to use and why. And one of the pharmaceutical companies wanted to onboard a bunch of software to make their lives more efficient from a project management perspective. So they hired us to help us integrate that. So it's really like a high level solving business problems. We just solve those problems for large Fortune 500 companies.
Very cool. Can you tell us a little bit about your first startup? Then I believe it was in the fitness space.
Yeah, there's one
before that.
Before that, actually.
Okay.
So the real first one was, it's actually how I got my job at KPMG. So I built a software platform with our CTO today and my good friend Scott, called Athliance. And it was basically LinkedIn groups or like Facebook groups for student athletes and alumni. So the whole idea was when you play a sport in college, it's like this really tight-knit group, and you can usually like resonate with that group regardless of like what age or walk of life you came from. So we wanted to basically build an online community to put everybody together, and built it, launched it, grew it to about 2,000 student athletes and alumni. We got Northwestern and Vanderbilt to pay us $50 a month for using it. So we're making $100 a month. And that wasn't nearly enough money for two 24-year-olds to live. So Scott and I had to go get jobs, but I used that experience actually to get into KPMG because I had no formal business experience.
So I wanted to pause here for a second because earlier, first semester, we had our students read an article that you wrote about how sort of the startup is the new college or the new MBA. I forget exactly how you were framing it. But can you talk about how, or maybe just elaborate what your point was about going and trying to make a startup? Like, how is that an alternative to, or maybe a complement to, a traditional education?
Yeah, I think it can be both depending on what path you take. So I think if you look at a lot of the statistics and like the cost of traditional college education these days against like the amount of debt you sort of have to take on, it's not as compelling of an argument to actually go that route anymore. And I think the other really interesting thing that's happening in the world is, I bet most of your students are really great at using online apps and using mobile apps and communicating through technology. So a lot of our generation is, and certainly generations younger, have been built and rooted in using tech. So, I think the point is, in tomorrow's world, it looks like a totally different skill set, which are digitally native skills. How do you build software? How do you design software? How do you use software? How do you sell software? And that generation is really well equipped to understand it really well. So I think knowing that that's the way the world's going, and knowing that we have an up and coming class of students and kids all over the world that have grown up in that age and understand it really well, I think they're really well equipped to actually not take a traditional path of dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars for an education that maybe they don't really use as much as they would a couple decades ago. So I think I loved my college experience, but like knowing how much I've learned from starting and building a business from scratch, even some of the unsuccessful ones, learned infinitely more doing that than I have spending 4 years in business classes, or even half a decade working proper jobs.
So yeah, I wanted to sort of dive back into that. So like you had this startup, Alliance, and you made $100 a month, split two.
Yeah, we're rolling it. It's like 12 Chipotle burritos. Block.
Approximately.
Yeah.
So it's like, how did that then get you into what would be by most standards a prestigious consulting position? It's like, how was that more important? Having a failure of a startup compared to having an undergrad from a prestigious school like Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I think especially when you're in the experienced labor market. So I'd already been like in the workforce for 2 to 3 years, so they weren't really hiring undergraduates into junior entry level positions. So I had to enter through kind of this experience channel. And then actually running a recruiting business, you see this a lot too. I think what people are really looking for is talent, or people that jump off the page, have a unique story, have done something different, can show commitment and follow through to doing something. And I think one of the things I was fortunate of, I didn't really think of at the time, but like by building that business, designing a software product from scratch, going out and getting a couple thousand users, convincing somebody to give me money for it. Not too many people have done that. So I think when I was sharing that experience with the managing director over at KPMG, they thought that was really unique. And they thought it was something that may lend itself in an entrepreneurial environment, which a lot of consulting firms are. So, I think it a lot of times as people are looking for what to do next, I think it's more about just like, how do you jump off the page and share a unique and authentic experience? Because people are unique and authentic, and they should talk about what makes them different. And same for like college essays and everything that your students are going through. Like, be different, find a way to jump off the page.
Yeah, I think that there's a big difference between having read several case studies on marketing, or having read several case studies on conceiving of an idea versus actually conceiving of an idea and then bringing it to fruition and having to follow through to get users and to actually have that real life experience is truly invaluable. Can we talk a little bit about New Coast Ventures, and maybe talk about exactly what a venture capital firm is, and then maybe how you vet projects to back?
Yeah, so New Coast is it's a hybrid venture firm. So we're investing in startups and then also incubating, building different businesses ideas. So we've invested in close to 40 companies, and then have started three or four now. And so really what a venture capital firm does is they make bets on highly speculative and highly risky ideas and businesses and entrepreneurs that either pan out or don't. It's different than investing in the stock market, where you can get your money out. Usually your money is kind of stuck until there's an exit. And also the way that they grow is at a faster rate than a traditional small business that maybe investing in a pizza store or investing in a bookstore or something like that. So basically what the business is you invest, you get a portion of the company, and then when that company exits or goes public or gets acquired, you get your money back at hopefully a really nice multiple.
Very cool. And can you talk about any of the businesses that any of the specific businesses that you've invested in, or maybe that's secret information that you can't share? But
it's good. So I'll give you a couple really cool ones. So we invested in a company called HipCamp, which is booking campground, both private and public. So if you're looking to with some buddies to go on a really cool camping trip in Montana, and you want to find like a unique fishing creek, and they can actually give you the ability to book someone's private land and set up a tent there and hang out for a few days. Or if you're in Yosemite and you want to find a really cool lodge, they actually have that hooked up as well. So it's their whole play is that a lot of the world is looking for more things to do outside, and they provide like the most seamless access to it. So that's a really cool company. We invest in another company that does basically helps it automate all the paperwork for adoptions agencies. So really, it's just software to help families find a better path to the burden of filling out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different documents to go through the entire paperwork process. They're called Binti. They're based in San Francisco. They're doing quite well too. So, quite a few different things. And then we invested in actually, have you heard of ClassKick?
ClassKick?
Yeah, check them out. They're cool. So they do basically, it's online learning, so the ability to give assignments, create different content, grade, and interact with students all via application. So, wide range of different things.
Very cool. Do you have a framework that you use when you are thinking about what companies you want to invest in? Is it the idea? Is it the entrepreneur? Is it a combination of the two? Are you only in certain verticals? You just said no, but
yeah. Well,
how do you think about that?
Laughing. It's like the investments that have done the best have been usually institutionally led. And so what I mean by that is they've got a really big known investor that writes the biggest check, and then other investors can come in and write small checks alongside of them. Usually an entrepreneur that is like obsessed with what they're doing, like almost to the point where it's, they seem a little crazy. So if you talk to Alyssa over at HipCamp, she's their CEO, the way she talks about like getting her team outdoors, going outdoors, taking breaks to be outdoors, like it's almost like she's a little manic. So I think the best entrepreneurs are really obsessed with what they're doing, and that gives them sort of the energy to propel through it regardless if it's not working or not for a while. So I think those are the two biggest data points, is like the deals that have done the best are betting on entrepreneurs that love what they're doing, betting entrepreneurs that are experts in what they're doing and maybe spent a career in a particular space and now are building a new business in it, or are backed by a certain investor and have one of those two other ingredients too. You usually see kind of the DNA.
Very cool. So I want to try to keep this relatively short, and I want to go down one path. I didn't give you a heads up on this one, so I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
One of the topics of our class that we did not get to prior to going to this e-learning phase is sales. So I'm wondering if you have any sort of general advice in the topic of sales for either entrepreneurs or people that are just wanting to enter into the business world. How do you warm a lead, so to speak, when you're thinking of selling what you do?
Yeah, I think for us, it's all about relationship building. So we kind of offer a pretty unique service with New Coast, with Hunt Club, where most people need to hire people. For the most part, like all businesses that we work with to some degree will have hiring needs in a non-COVID-19 environment. So a little bit less now, but it'll ramp back up. So really for us, it's about storytelling, how we can help, sharing some of our customer successes that we've had, and giving unique thoughts and value on their business and what they might be looking for. And I think, the best salespeople you ever met in your life, you never actually know they're selling. They're storytelling, they're adding value and helping you in ways that make you build a connection with that person. And they're really consulting and trying to give you nuggets of information and knowledge that allow you to run your business in a better way. And so usually by building those foundational layers, you can build a really great trust and bridge between two people, which allows you to transact in some form of business down the road. So it's like, we always think about like, how do you help first? How do you teach or educate second? And then kind of how do you sell third, maybe? Because it's usually, no one really likes the idea of sales, but it's what makes business go around, and everyone needs products and services. So
I feel like a lot of young people really only have an experience in sales of like door-to-door candy sales for youth baseball, or sales for Cut. But even Cutco's maybe not even there yet. For high school students. But I love what you said, that like rooted in everything is that what you guys are selling is something that people really need. They need to find the best people for their job. And so once you can have a product that people are looking for, then it's more about relationship building and problem solving, which I think makes the sales part of it sound or feel less salesy in terms of how a lot of people associate with sales.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's like in the future, the word sales may even change, right? Like it's called, a lot of people talk about revenue generation. It's, it is important, but like I almost wonder if it does change at some point because it still has oddly a negative connotation, right? And it shouldn't. It's about how do you give somebody a product or service that helps them.
Right. Great. So one final question, and then we'll let you leave. It's already almost 9 o'clock here. Thanks for joining us this late. What advice would you have for young people, either going into college or thinking about starting their own entrepreneurial venture?
Yeah, I think for going into college, maybe I'll blend the two questions. So in college, you'll never be in a better environment where you're surrounded by thousands and thousands of people all in like a really dense proximity, right? So you can reach them really quickly. And also be around so many smart people that are ambitious, that can help you, whether it's your professors or students in your class, or just the local ecosystem. So I think like building a business or trying to build a business while you're in college, even if it doesn't work out, it can be like one of the most rewarding experiences. I'll give you a quick story. So one of my co-founder, my CTO, built a business called Branscombe Trash. And so what he did was he set up like a really simple website where you could put your dorm room number in, set up the time that you wanted him to pick up your trash, and like you could pay him $25 a week or something like that. I forget what the amount of money was. And so he did this, he threw it up and he was making like $300-400 a week just walking around, picking up other people's trash.
That can go a long ways in college.
Yeah. So like, I don't think it worked out that well for him socially for a while, but like he made that kind of money. And eventually the university shut him down, which I still think was kind of, stunting entrepreneurship, not helping it. But the point is, like, when you're in college, you have many resources, you're around a ton of potential customers, your students, or other students and your classmates. So I think it's a really cool time to actually think about starting a business. And I think the advice I would give around starting a business is like find something that you're just obsessed with, that you love, that brings you joy and feels like you bring joy to others in the world, and just go do it and try and charge somebody for it. And if you can get them to buy it, you've got a business.
That's great advice. Well, Nick, thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully next year, we won't shut down and we'll be able to do this in person. So stay safe and give my best to your family, and hope to see you soon.
Likewise. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.